Why aren't we talking about the fact that food is currently increasing in price at a rate not seen for 45 years? I'm going to say that again because, frankly, there is no more important story in town, however hard some corners of the right-wing media may be trying to persuade you otherwise. Let's have a look at what they're going big with today. When will someone get a grip on the eco-fanatics? Asks the Daily Mail. Well, OK, mate, that's the problem there. The protests about planetary crisis, not the actual planetary crisis. On you go. The NHS is broken, declares Starmer. That's fair enough. You're paying price of rise in fat cat salaries. So that's the Daily Express. Not talking, of course, about the kind of fat cats who run Fox News, but talking instead about people who work for councils. And on it goes. Toff Justice, the bloke who interrupted the snooker the other day with a giant bag of Wotsits. He merits the front page of the Sun. There's a full page in the Daily Mail about a medical student, i.e. not an actual doctor yet, who went off for some liposuction during the strike week, and that apparently merits a full page in the Daily Mail. So if you've got any student children and they are politically active, you better warn them that their social media will be pored over by dirty middle-aged men in raincoats looking for excuses to print pictures of your daughter in her bikini. That's what passes for editorial policy at the Daily Mail today. I just can't believe my eyes some mornings. Prices for bread, cereal, chocolate, the kind of luxuries that Therese Coffey would suggest you don't really need. Bread, said Therese Coffey. Let them eat brioche. Let them eat cake, which, as pedantic correspondents are no doubt in the midst of texting me now, was not actually said by Marie Antoinette. But no matter. Let them eat turnips. That's what you've been reduced to. I don't know why I'm saying you. That's what we've been reduced to. We've spent 200 years using let them eat cake as a figure of speech to describe the absolute arrogance and detachment from reality of a long-dead French aristocrat, whether she actually said it or not, French royal. Let them eat cake. Mangeons brioche. You must be familiar with that figure. That's the figure of speech. There it is, 7 minutes in. We boiled a frog. We couldn't see the wood for the trees. We flirted with a rolling stone that can gather no... You have to be careful doing that. You'll end up pregnant. We flirted with a rolling stone that can gather no moss. And lo and behold, we got to the one that we actually wanted. We got to the one that we actually need. It's let them eat cake. That's the figure of speech that underpins today's programme. Because in many ways, subconsciously, all of the media outlets today trying to distract you with nonsense culture war stories are sort of subscribing to the let them eat cake school of thought. We've even got a coronation on the horizon, haven't we? Doesn't get much more let them eat quiche than that, I don't think. Let them eat turnips. That's what we're reduced to. So we spent a couple of 100 years comfortably absorbing the notion that let them eat cake is a historical example of appalling conduct from a leader, if you like, or a member of the ruling class. And without anybody noticing, really registering how angry it should make us. We've got let them eat turnips as a government policy. Falling inflation doesn't mean prices are falling. It just means that the rate of price rises is slowing. So when he pledges that inflation will be halved by the end of the year, which at the time looked like predicting the sun would come up tomorrow, but it's not looking quite as certain as it was when Rishi Sunak made that promise. He's not suggesting that your prices are going to start coming down. He's just promising that they'll only be going up by 4 or 5% a year, which your wages won't be, and that somehow will count as a government achievement. That's how mad everything is at the moment. This government has halved inflation. Is inflation higher or lower than the pay rise I'm getting this year? Higher. So I'm worse off than I was before. Yes, as a direct result of this government's determination to tackle inflation, you are worse off this year than you were last year. Milk went up by 38%. Milk, that well-known luxury, that libation of choice for the new liberal elite, that metropolitan tipple that nobody from the great British working class can afford. Yeah, milk. Milk has gone up by 38% in March. 38% in March. Ready meals, 21%. Maybe not your first port of call when you're in the supermarket. Similarly, olive oil. Oh, olive oil. Whoa, why can't you just use motor oil? Why can't you cook your chips in WD-40? Oil. Absolutely fundamental. It's kind of a staple of the Bible, oil. So absolutely conducive is it to sophistication. I don't import potatoes. A friend of mine does. Sent me a picture yesterday of would you believe, of a bag of potatoes. And the point that he made was this: just imagine a small potato producer on the continent having to submit a sanitation certificate every time he sends anything to the UK. It's the same with cheese. Why would you bother? It's a chuffing mess. That's the point. I mean, I thought I was going to do a short introduction this morning, but someone has to keep pointing this out. It was supposed to be a reduction in red tape, right? Everyone can agree about that. Even if you're still high on sovereignty or moaning about the fact that foreigners are still coming into the country, the reduction in red tape, we all recognise that, right? Even perhaps those of us who understood what Brexit was likely to mean thought, well, maybe there's some truth in that because they all keep saying it and they went to expensive schools, so they must know what they're talking about. A reduction in red tape. We have erected trade barriers between ourselves and our nearest partners. Partners that would have been responsible for importing into this country food, which increases competition and therefore lowers prices. We have erected trade barriers. We have introduced bales of red tape. And yet we're still sitting here pretending that this lot know what they're talking about. A cabinet populated almost exclusively by people who promised that the polar opposite of what is now happening would happen. I mean, I don't know which of my long-term contributors we should be keenest to hear from. Is it Daniel, the wine producer? Is it Kieran, the international courier? Is it Andreas, the greengrocer? Is it Simon, the cheese? But I mean, it is insane that we're sitting here today looking at the highest increase in food prices for 45 years, and we've got a political class still insisting that Brexit's going brilliantly. Do you know, according to one poll, more people in this country currently believe that the earth is flat than believe that Brexit is going, quotes, very well, end quotes.